Back here again for another preview, this time of the Pac-12 I talked about last night. Check out my Big Ten preview. Also check out our college football preview that we did as a panel the other night. Pac-12. Why am I covering the Pac-12? I live in the East Coast now. I'm still an Oregon Duck fan, and I still like the Pac-12 I like the Oregon Ducks. So I wouldn't say I necessarily like the Pac-12 conference. If you took Oregon out of the Pac-12, it would be my least favorite conference. I'm going to be honest. I don't love that area of the country. I don't find the teams very good outside of Utah's a pretty good team. And actually, I do enjoy watching Utah. And I like the state of Utah. So actually, if it wasn't Oregon, my favorite team would actually probably be Utah. Never will be a USC fan. But, you know, they might be enjoyable to watch under Lincoln Riley. And UCLA could be a decent team this year. But other than that, I just don't think the other teams are that good. And you'll see that in my preview. I'll be putting it up at thesportscast.net. Check us out on Twitter and on YouTube. And check out this article on the website. My preview of... I'm not even going to do the North and the South other than I might mention just for clarity or something. But the reason why I'm not, because it's the top two teams play for the Pac-12 championship. So it's basically like the Big 12. And it's about ready to be the Pac-10 because USC and UCLA are leaving in 2 years. Well, I could actually touch on that briefly. I don't know what will be the Pac-10 because I think Oregon leaves. They're already in talks with the Big Ten. I think it's pretty highly likely that Washington leaves, and wouldn't be shocked if Stanford and Cal kind of finish off that Western pod. I've already thought it through, and you would have a solid 6 teams. You'd probably take the 4 teams in the Big Ten furthest to the west, Nebraska, Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, and you'd probably put them in that conference. And so you got 20 teams. You literally have it covered from coast to coast, Maryland to California. I'm thinking it's pretty likely right now, especially with the media rights deal that was just signed. So, oh jeez, my phone's clicking. So here is my predictions. I do think there's 2 really good teams. I think there is another 2 teams that are the dark horse teams. And then I think there is 8 extremely average teams. I would say a couple extremely average and 3 or 4 bad teams. So 2 good, 2 dark horses, couple average, and the other half bad. Who's good? Utah and Oregon. They played for the conference championship last year. They also played in 2019. Over the last few years, for the most part, they have... COVID was a weird year. Oregon won it and didn't even win their division. But Oregon and Utah have been the 2 best teams. Oregon talent-wise, Utah program-wise. Oregon won the conference 1 year. The next year, vice versa, or 2 years later, Utah. And I'm really, when I think of the context of the Pac-12, 2020 was weird. That got canceled, played only 6 games. Some teams only played 4 due to having to cancel games due to COVID. So I look at it as 2019, 2021, who were the 2 best teams? Oregon and Utah. I think Oregon only lost 2 games, and Utah lost. Did Utah lose any? Off the top of my head, outside of losing they lost to USC. So USC and Oregon were their only 2 losses in 2019 and 21. So Utah's been extremely good in the Pac-12, and they will be again this year. Who do I have winning it? Well, first I'll go through what I have. I have Oregon being 11-1, Utah being 10-2, USC 9-3, UCLA 8-4, Washington 7-5. They could be 4-8. Oregon State 6-6. Arizona State 6-6. I mapped out game by game. I went by it and I gave them that. They could be 4-8. Washington State 5-7. Washington State could win 7 games. I could see that. Stanford 4-8. Stanford could win 6. Cal 4-8. I think they're about 4-8. Arizona 3-9. They're the little bit of the one that I'm wondering about. Do they take a little more of a jump and maybe win 5-6 games? Colorado 0-12. They're terrible. They're going to be bad. That's all I know. Who do I have winning it? I actually have Utah being the champion over Oregon. Well, you had Oregon 11-1, Utah 10-2. Yeah, I have Oregon winning the regular season game. Why do I have them win the regular season game? It's at Oregon. Oregon has not lost at home since 2018. They're an extremely good home team. Autzen Stadium is one of the best home field advantages in the Pac-12, actually in America. Just a loud, I mean, it's a very, very, very distinct home field advantage. I think that what happened to them to Utah last year, I think they'll come out and I think they'll play an extremely inspired game. I think they'll beat a team. I think Utah's going to be the overall better team, but Oregon, man for man, still has the better talent. Oregon's my 8th most talented team in the team talent formula. Utah's not my top 25. Utah probably, usually in the team talent composite, they're usually in the 30 to 40 range. But what a terrific coach in Kyle Whittingham, terrific program, great defensive coordinator in Morgan Scalley. He has an experienced quarterback in Cam Rising, good running back in Tavion Thomas, all the offensive linemen back. Brett Keachley is probably the best tight end in the conference, and they always play solid defense. They'll be good. I have them losing to Florida opening week. I think it's going to be a very close game, but a talented Florida team in the swamp, I have them beating Utah. I don't feel 100% about that, but I do think it happens. I then think Utah breezes through the schedule, and I think when Oregon and Utah meet, Oregon loses to Georgia, but Oregon is able to and I've tried to talk myself. I'm like, you're an Oregon fan, you're going to show bias. I just don't see anyone else beating them. I think their roster is just too good. I mean, Oregon on the defensive side of the ball might have 2 or 3 first-round draft picks. Noah Sewell, one of the best linebackers in college football. Christian Gonzalez is projected first-round cornerback. Justin Flo, a former 5-star, if he stays healthy and plays to his ability, he could be a first-round linebacker. They also have experience on the defensive line. DJ Johnson, Brandon Dorless, Papo Amave, transfers like Sammy Tamaya from Washington and Casey Rogers from Nebraska. They have just a very deep defensive group. And on offense, they return all 5 offensive linemen. A couple of them were 2 of the best at their positions in like center Alex Forsyth and guard tackle TJ Bass. And the other guys are experienced. How I look at it is a talented defense, a very experienced offensive line. You have an experienced quarterback in Bo Nix. He was up and down at Auburn, but he's experienced. You have solid running backs, solid wide receivers. I'm just like, BYU. At Oregon, I don't see BYU being good enough to stop them and being able to score enough. UCLA over Oregon. UCLA, I think, is going to be pretty good. They have some experience, but I don't think they beat Oregon at Oregon. Washington's not good enough. Stanford's not good enough. And then the road games. Cal's not any good. Colorado's terrible. Arizona's getting better, but they're still young. Washington State's the one game in the Palouse after BYU. That is one that I would be worried about. The other one's Oregon State, but Oregon State, that's not really a home field advantage because it's an hour away, an hour and a half from Eugene. It's still in Oregon. It's going to be 50-50 in the crowd, if that. Might be more Oregon fans. I just don't think they're good enough. So I'm like, Utah's the team that can beat Oregon. But I laid out the situation. I think because it's at Oregon, they're going to come out and they are going to play one of their best games of the season. They beat Utah. But in the rematch, I do think Utah's a little better. I just trust Kyle Whittingham other than a new coach at Oregon, a team that really looked terrible in the 2 games against Utah last year, got destroyed. I think Utah's able to come back and win the Pac-12. You talk about the other teams. USC, they are what they are. They got Lincoln Riley, check. They have a talented quarterback in Caleb Williams, check. They have talented wide receivers, Jordan Addison, Mario Williams, Gary Bryant Jr., Brendan Rice, check. A couple talented running backs came in, and Travis Dye and Austin Jones, check. They have one good offensive lineman and really don't have much else on the offensive line and don't have great depth. Problem. Defensive line, Eric Gentry's a good player. Corey Foreman's a former 5-star. They lack depth. In the interior, they really lack depth. I think Brandon Pye is their best defensive lineman, and he's battled injuries. Linebacker core, no one that really stands out there. This was a bad defense against the run last year. I don't see how they improved even through the portal. Their best part of their defense is the defensive backfield, so I think you're going to be able to run on them. I think you will, and they have not been physical over the last few years. Lincoln Riley is going to bring that in, but I don't necessarily think his forte is bringing in a physical team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. He brings in Alex Grinch, but that's a total cultural change. I think they're going to struggle against the Notre Dames, the Utah, even at teams like Oregon State. And that's where I had their 3 losses being, because I think they're going to be beaten around those games. I think they'll score. I think they're good athletes on the outside, will make plays, but I think they'll get physically manhandled this year. They need to recruit better in order to catch up on the offensive and the front 7 on defense. They're 9-3 because I just think they're better than the other teams. They're going to be able to outscore them. UCLA's 8-4. I actually like UCLA. I think they have a lot of good pieces. They have a experienced quarterback. They have a guy like Zach Carbonet in the backfield. I still think they lack a little bit of talent. I think they lose to the top 3 teams, but I think they are able to get by the other ones. Washington 7-5. Don't feel great about that. I just think they have a little better firepower than the other teams, but Washington could be much worse. 7-5 would be a good year for Kalen DeBoer after what happened with Jimmy Lake. Oregon State 6-6. I think they're a dark horse team. I think they're going to clip off a few teams. I have them upsetting USC, but they are what they are. They're just not very talented. Arizona State, they have lost. They've been killed in the portal. Terrible recruiting. I think the trajectory of the program is going way down. I think 6-6. I gave it to them. I don't know if they're 6-6. I actually think that'd be kind of really good year for them. Washington State 5-7. Some part of me feels like Washington State actually might make the a bowl game. So I kind of don't feel great about that one. Stanford 4-8. They have Trevor McGree. They have some talent on the outside, and a guy like Elijah Higgins. They could be better than this. I could see them winning 6-7 games. I just don't know. Stanford has not been very good the last few years. Let's see if it's better this year. Cal 4-8. They're another team that I just think has lost talent. I think the whole culture of that program is not headed in the right direction. I think that's a 4-8 squad. Or Arizona 3-9. I like what Arizona's done with recruiting. I still think their best players are freshmen. I could see them being 5-7, but I don't know. Colorado, terrible. I really don't know what to say other than that. All their best players they lost. Christian Gonzalez, Mika Blackman, Brendan Rice, Jared Broussard. Those are 4 of the best players they left. They're not recruiting well. I think Carl Durrell is going to be gone here in a year or two. That's my prediction. I'm going to do one more video, and it's going to be my college football playoff prediction and my national championship. I actually gave away who I thought was going to win on the college football show, but I have the wonkiest playoff for that 4th spot. I actually have Utah being the 4th team and a 2-loss Pac-12. I don't know how that happened, but when I went through my scenarios and what I have the final team being, it was the only one that made sense. It was them or an 11-2 Georgia team that doesn't win their conference. I don't know. It's a tough one. Anyways, check me out. This is my Pac-12 preview. Check us out at sportscast.net and Sportcast1 on Twitter. And I'm at the TurnerCast. Check me out on Twitter. Thank you.